Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective.
Morning, everyone. Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. Hope you're doing well here on this Wednesday. I am going nuts today. You might wonder, why is Ray Flowers here? Well, yesterday, Justin Fensterman stepped up for me because I had an issue at the home with the power. We were getting solar panels installed. So Justin did the show yesterday. Today, I'm obviously here sitting in for Justin. Next week as well, because Justin will be traveling. I'll actually be on Wednesdays. Let me get in the middle of the screen here. I'll be on Wednesdays, and Justin will be on Tuesday next week. The week after that, we'll go back to the traditional setup where Justin's on Wednesdays. But just this week and next week, I'll be on Wednesdays. Week after that, we'll go back to the normal thing. Again, I'm Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. If you wonder what I'm doing here, I'm trying to find the sweet spot here, right? We've talked about this. I got a new standing desk, so we're trying to get it all in place here on the show. I think we're pretty much centered here. We'll see how this goes. Let me know if there's any problems, everybody in the chat. And when I say let me know in the chat, you can let me know in the chat because if you're watching live on youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork, if you're watching live on facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ, or if you're watching live on Twitter X @FantasyGuruSite, any of those three places, you can leave comments, questions, all that kind of stuff. EIEIO, you keep saying the sound is hollow, which I find weird. You said this, I think, the last time too, which I find odd because I am standing up, but nothing else in the office has changed. I don't know. I made an adjustment to the speaker, hopefully, or the microphone. Hopefully that helps, but it's kind of weird. I wonder if are other people experiencing that same issue here on the show, because all I've done is raise the microphone up 2 feet. I mean, everything else is basically the same. So, all right, well, we'll see. Let me know, anybody, if you're also hearing that issue here. I don't know what I can do, but I can obviously try to fix something if there is an issue. But yeah, if you're watching any of those three spots as we're talking about here, you can leave comments and questions and concerns throughout the show live. You can always watch the show on demand at any point there too. You can type in Fantasy Sports Daily to your podcast network. That obviously gets you what you need to know. You can also go to FantasyGuru.com, click the Elite Plus tab at the top of the page, and rock and roll there. Maybe we'll hold it up like this. Maybe that'll help. Who knows? This is even higher now than normal. We'll see if that helps out at all. So I'm Ray Flowers, as you know. You can find me on Twitter, X, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, all those places @TheRayFlowers. So if you have any questions, concerns, you can ask me there. You can also send a note to support@FantasyGuru.com. Support@FantasyGuru.com. If you have any questions about any of the product, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner of the page. Get signed up for the baseball product, for the football product, basketball, NASCAR, PGA, MMA, horse racing, hockey, if I didn't mention that. All that kind of stuff over at FantasyGuru.com. What are we talking about today? Well, let's throw it up on the screen for those of you that are watching. We got a lot of injuries, and I wish there wasn't injuries to talk about, but that's the nature of the game, right? So we'll talk about the injuries, and they never stop. A lot of times they're small guys. A lot of times it's guys on the hill. Right now it seems to be more on the guys on the field. So we'll talk about that. Jackson Merrill, Lane Thomas, Fernando Tatis, Matt McLain, who are the replacements for these guys? What are teams doing? We talked about Victor Robles a little bit. He's going to miss 3 months. What are they do in Seattle? Situations with Blake Snell and Reynaldo Lopez. So don't worry, we got pitchers to talk about too. Liam Hendriks, Lucas Giolito, Pablo Lopez, Pablo Lopez, Zach Eflin, on and on and on and on and on. So lots of injuries to discuss. In about 25 or so minutes, we're switching up the order of the guys that appear with us this week too on the football side of things. Tyler Buecher's traveling. You know this. Last week he joined us from other than his home. He was with his brother helping him build a deck in the backyard. Still away right now, so he's going to be on the show today. We'll have Armando Marsal on Thursday at about 12:30 Eastern. Russell Clay will be on his normal spot Friday at 12:30 Eastern. So today we'll continue our look around. We've been doing this thing with Tyler where we're talking about team needs. What do teams need? So we'll talk about that. Today we're talking about the NFC East and the AFC East. So two divisions that got a whole bunch of bangers in the fantasy perspective. We'll talk about those two situations in terms of the divisions with Tyler Buecher. Remember, go to fantasyguru.com, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. Get signed up for the product there. Whatever you sign up for, you can get access to Discord rooms. You get access to live streams and podcasts if we have those. You can try the promo code Game Time. Now, let's not forget, let's mention that. I mentioned at the start, I've got a busy day before we dive into it. Because I'm doing the show Wednesday, I'm doing the hour here with you in the morning. Remember, Fantasy Sports Daily is powered by fantasyguru.com Monday through Friday at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. At 3 o'clock Eastern, Monday through Friday, is Jeff Mann's show, the Elite Sports Show on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. I'm always on with Jeff, so I've got 1 hour here with you this morning. I've got 3 hours with you with Jeff. And then tonight, the Game Time show is on for 2 hours. So I have 6 hours of talking today. I spent a bunch of time in Discord this morning answering questions, working on the Raised Plays, the DFS article. That should be up here before we get going on the show today. But I'm talking 6 hours today. That's this show, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Jeff Mann's on SiriusXM on the Elite Sports Show. That's 3 o'clock Eastern, Monday through Friday. And then Game Time with myself and Justin Fensterman, 8 to 10 Eastern, Monday through Friday. I've had questions. Does anyone on Sirius talk about baseball? Justin and I are doing 80% baseball on our show. So if you want baseball talk, 8 to 10 Eastern on Game Time on Elite Sports Game Time show on SiriusXM. We're doing the updates of what's going on in the field, how things are actually playing out, all that kind of stuff. So that's what we're doing there. So check us out, 8 to 10. You can always listen to the show on demand and all that. But I got 6 hours of talking today. So let's get to some of the content of that talking. First off, the Padres got a couple of situations they're dealing with. One, Fernando Tatis, who had a bet on yesterday, only played half the game, unfortunately. 2 for 3 in the bets yesterday. And as I was joking around on the Elite Sports Show, I was actually 6 for 7 on bets yesterday. But I only posted 3 of them. So officially, I'm 2 for 3. But the only bet I missed was one of the 7 I posted. Shoot. I had 4 of the ones I didn't post that would have hit. But anyway, 2 or 3 is pretty good. We'll take that every night. We didn't hit the Tatis bet because he was pulled halfway through the game because he tweaked his shoulder. Apparently, he tweaked his shoulder on a swing, and then he slid into third base and aggravated it. This is the arm that has been repaired surgically. The Padres are suggesting that there's nothing to see here, that everything's going to be fine with Tatis. Let's hope. I don't know. It's not the first time this guy's dealt with health injuries, and this is something that has precluded him from being a full-on superstar in the fantasy space year after year, though he is usually drafted to be one anyway. Does not, at this point in time, sound like he's going to go to the injured list. You know how these things can change. His teammate Jackson Merrill was going to the injured list either. He was going to avoid it. Now he's on the injured list. We'll talk about him. But Tatis, for now, is going to avoid the injured list. Wouldn't be surprised if he missed a day or two, at least today, right? That kind of thing. We'll see with what they plan to do in San Diego, excuse me. But for now, they seem to think he's going to be okay. Speaking of Jackson Merrill, Merrill was held out of the lineup kind of surprisingly. We heard his hamstring was a little tweaked. Okay, no big deal. They put him on the injured list. Now, again, this is the way the world is in the 2020s now, right? If this was 1986, he probably doesn't go on the injured list, but it's not. So this is the world we live in. Jackson Merrill, 10-day injured list, retroactive to April 7th with that hamstring strain. Expectation at this point is, again, 10 days, and that'll be it, and he'll be back. That's the expectation. Is that an answer? No. Do I feel good about that that situation playing itself out exactly? We'll see. But that's the move right now. And the Padres obviously could withstand losing one of these guys. Losing both of these guys, I mean, who could withstand that? That's crushing to their offense. So we'll have to keep a close eye on that. I guess we're going to see Gavin Sheets in the lineup daily. If we have Gavin Sheets in the lineup daily, Yuli Gurriel's the DH or Oscar Gonzalez. So this would significantly weaken the lineup for the Padres if both those guys, we know Merrill's out. Tatis is also out as well. Wyatt Lanford yesterday hit a home run. Things are going good. Couple of base hits. All right, here we go. Pulled late in the game with a side issue. He's having an MRI today. They don't think it's anything serious. Langford was talking to the press and said, I don't believe it's anything serious. Players often take that path, right, where everything's fine when it's not. Even if it's not serious, not to say he doesn't miss a few days or end up on the injured list, much like Jackson Merrill. So we will wait with bated breath with Wyatt Langford. We just don't know. In theory, if Langford was going to be out of this lineup for a while for the Rangers, maybe we could get Evan Carter called up. Now, Evan Carter struggled in the minors. He hasn't really picked up his offensive game after struggling in spring. But he hurt himself. I think he was bunting last night. He hurt himself. He got hit at the pit. So even if they wanted to make a move to Evan Carter, I don't know if A, his performance is there, and B, if he's healthy enough to get promoted, if indeed Langford is going to miss time. So this is another one of those scenarios where it seems like, oh, everything's set. oh, we'll go from Lanford to Evan Carter. This is pretty good. Evan Carter's, a guy that we want to have on our team for the next 10 years anyway. Let's get him in that lineup. Don't know if that's going to happen. So that's a situation we'll have to monitor closely because that's got significant fantasy ramifications there. Lane Thomas, let me take a sip of water here. Gnome is where the heart is, for those of you looking. I am a gnome guy, for those of you saying, what the hell are you talking about? Oh, I moved my gnome. Oh, hold on a sec. I got a coffee gnome right here. Here's my coffee gnome for those of you watching. Right? The gray beard, kind of like me. I'll just put him right here. That's right on my desk. Anyway, Lane Thomas was removed from the game yesterday with a right wrist contusion for the Guardians. We'll see. It seems like, again, at this point in time, that Thomas is going to be okay. It seems at this point in time that the Guardians aren't going to have to make a move. But again, the news and information could change here. Let's pull it up real quickly, see if anything's popped here in the last 15 minutes. Oh, my gosh. Well, we got another news story that's popping right now. Not that one. I'll come back to it in a second. Stay tuned for what the oh my gosh was. This is just, I mean, I don't know. Anyway, the situation with Lane Thomas is that he's supposed to be okay. That's the expectation right now. Thomas obviously is off to a little bit of a slow start. He's struggling to keep up pace against right-handed bat pitching. He's the left-handed masher, but the right-handed pitching side of things. Luckily for him, the Guardians need him. They don't have obvious options. They could go with, looking at their lineup. Noel, I mean, they could try him in the outfield for Lane Thomas. The problem is Lane Thomas is playing center field, and Noel can't play center field. This could, in theory, have led to the call-up. Why am I drawing a blank on the guy? Who's their top? I have to scroll through here and figure this out because I'm being an idiot. Who is their top outfielder? Someone help me out. Who's the top outfielder? He got hurt. He's going to miss like 3 months. Oh, boy. This is what happens when you're doing a live show. Let's see here. Injured list. No. Not the pitchers. Where's the outfielders? This is good radio. I know it's not radio. Let's look. Why did they change this up? They changed up the way. I will think of it in a second. But the bottom line is the guy that is their number one outfield prospect, who I'm drawing a blank on, who's hurt. Oh, Chase DeLauder. There we go. He's hurt, so he's not even a potential call-up for the Guardians. Sorry about that. That was a whole delay thing here. But the bottom line is the Guardians will try to make do, and they really, really need Lane Thomas to be healthy and effective right now. The oh my God, what's going on thing. This pitcher struggled his first couple of outings. There was some concern that we talked about in the show. I wrote about him over at fantasyguru.com and his ramblings. Went out last time, was really good. 7 innings of strong work. Looked like everything was back on track. Everyone took a breath. Now Cubs have placed Justin Steele on the 15-day injured list with left elbow tendonitis. Colin Ray, maybe he gets the shot because they already have him, and he was, he signed to that small contract after a pretty good year last year for the Brewers. Maybe they just put him into the rotation. Jordan Wicks might get called up. I don't think Javier Assad is ready yet to jump into the rotation, so it's probably going to be Wicks or Colin Ray here filling in for Justin Steele. This news just broke in the last half hour here with Justin Steele. I don't have more information than that. We're doing the live show here, so I can't do a bunch of research, but in theory, tendonitis could be 2 weeks. He could end up getting a cortisone shot, which could end up probably being 3 or 4 weeks. He might need some rest, and if he rests too long, then he loses his stamina and his pitch count starts. So best case scenario, we're probably looking at Justin Steele missing April. Worst case scenario, so let's hope it's not worst case scenario, but Justin Steele, just another one of these. I'm going to talk more about this on the Elite Sports Show with Jeff Mans today. I think it's going to be my can't go for that for those of you that watch that show. But the fact is, this is just, this is part of the game, and it's really frustrating. And it's why we at fantasyguru.com, why I have talked about, being in a league where it's a half-season league, right? You play the first half, you redraft at All-Star break, you have a second half season. If your team goes to crap in the first half, you still have a chance to win or be better in the second half. It's why we've talked about, as we do participate in an offense-only league. People always argue again. I tried this idea. I put it out. We've run polls and everything the last couple of years. Would you play in an offensive-only league? And everyone says, no, I don't want to do that, which I totally understand not wanting to do that. But I will say two things. One, 90% of football leagues are offense only, right? You have a team defense, but no one's playing IDP. And secondly, what's the number one complaint most people have about their team? It's that their pitchers are hurt. I don't know. It's disappointing because, again, we're in April here. We don't want to feel like we're underwater here. It's April. A little bit rough. All right, back to the standard program. Offensive player to talk about that's hurt. Matt McLain had the hamstring injury. He was in and out of the lineup. They didn't think he was going to require an injury list. Well, he's on the injury list today. So he's going to miss at least 10 days. Hopefully it's a 10-day stint. I think that's fair at this point. But again, they also said he's going to be okay. So Matt McLain, obviously disappointing start to the year because of that. The team likely shifts over Gavin Lux to second base. This is an early read, but I think Gavin Lux could play second base because they called up Noelvi and Marte, which I assume will play third base. Now, remember, a year ago, Marte was a top 10 prospect in the rankings over at fantasyguru.com. He ended up with an 80-game suspension for PEDs, wiping out his season last year. It was a mess. It was terrible. He went down to the farm this year. In 9 games on the farm, he was hitting .350 with 3 steals. He is a really talented player. And with the way the cycle goes, he was bee's knees last year. He had the suspension. Everyone just moved on. Calling him a post-type sleeper feels kind of weak because he's so young. He's 23 and he hasn't ever established himself at the big league level, but he's kind of in that zone. So Marte was a guy that I really, I looked at a lot. It was hard to get excited about the way that the lineup was coming together with the Reds. But I will say, I had him 31st at third base, which is not, I think that was ahead of ADP. So, there's some hope there. This is a really early call-up for Marte. If he continues to hit like he did in the minors, as we say all the time, they will find a way to keep him at the big league level. Once McLain is back, if that's 10 days, 2 weeks, things again get very tight for Marte, so he could easily be demoted. So this is not go out and spend all your fab on Marte, but if you have an open spot, if you've got an injury, if you're a person that likes to stream guys, roll through guys, Marte is an intriguing pickup. Power, speed, an elite level prospect, and for now he's going to get some playing time. So everyone's excited about a guy like Cam Smith. Noelvi Marte is just as exciting from a fantasy perspective, and if both guys were getting 400 plate appearances this year, I'd prefer Marte to Smith. So just to put that out there. Jake Fraley has got a side issue, but he returned to the lineup last night, so kind of odd that they called up Will Benson, but the Reds basically are dealing with some things right now, and we'll continue to monitor the fallout of the injuries that they are dealing with. Going back to the range we were talking earlier about Wyatt Lanford, Josh Jung is back. He returned from the injury list. He missed that 10 days with the neck spasms. Josh Smith is the guy that probably loses playing time here. He's off to a good start, but he's nowhere near the level of player, obviously, that Josh Jung is. So he'll return. Ezekiel Duran, who remember was a decent prospect who had a solid a couple years ago. Multi-position flexible, power, speed. Didn't do anything last year. He got demoted with this move here, so he's obviously out of the plans. The Rangers. The only way he's really going to step up is if there is some kind of injuries or something like that. Jonny DeLuca was a guy that was trending up. He was playing a good deal for the Rays. Got some power. The speed was going. All that kind of stuff. And what happened to him? Well, he's going to miss 2 to 4 weeks with a strained shoulder. Oh, here we go. Now, this is not supposed to be a long-term thing. This is not supposed to be a big deal. Misner and Mangum, for now, will be the guys that play. Simpson, the speedster that we've talked about here on the show and over at fantasyguru.com, is not getting called up right now by the Rays. I wrote about Simpson, was it Friday last week? Monday this week? What day is today? Today's Wednesday. It was either Monday or Friday. Go check out the Ramblings piece over at fantasyguru.com. I mean, this guy's a 100 steal guy in the minors. So when he's called up, he's going to be somebody that everyone is into in terms of spending fab and waiver wire stuff. But for now, it's not going to happen. They're going to go with Misner and Mangum. So the DeLuca situation sounds short term, but again, 2 to 4 weeks. It's April, and for a guy in DeLuca that you were looking at that you drafted in the reserve rounds or picked up off the waiver wire, and you're hoping was going to go 15-20 this year, it's a significant blow to that outlook with that right shoulder strain. Victor Robles, who I talked about at the start of the show, who we talked about when the injury occurred, is going to miss with the dislocated shoulder and a fracture. Ugh. So a best case, let's hope it goes according to plan scenario for Victor Robles is 12 weeks out. It's 3 months. So basically all-star break is kind of the best case scenario. If it doesn't heal over the next 6 weeks, they might have to go in surgically to fix it. So this is one of those things, we got about a 6-week window here for Robles that we're going to keep our fingers crossed, because if everything goes well for that 6-week period, he could be back in 12 weeks. If things don't go well in that 6-week period, he's having surgery and then his season's likely over. So things got bad really quickly for Victor Robles. For those of you that missed it, it was in Oracle Park in San Francisco. He tried to make a catch down the right field line. He dove over the fence to make the catch, ended up hurting his shoulder. He jammed himself into a netting that was there. As we talked about on the Elite Sports Show, Game Time at 8 to 10 Eastern, Monday through Friday, Justin Fenchman and I talked about this. The wall there is like 3.5 feet. So I don't know, Robles ran into the wall. If the netting wasn't there, Robles would have flipped over the wall. I don't know. It was great play, but you got to take care of yourself. So the bottom line is he's out for months in a best case scenario. So last night, at least, Dylan Moore was the leadoff guy. Dylan Moore, who qualifies all over the field, who has major holes in his offensive game. If he can somehow lock down that leadoff spot, which again, if it was 1986, his skill set says bat him leadoff, right? He's fast, he steals bases. But in 2025, if the guy's got a 300 on base percentage, is that a guy you want batting leadoff? So he's miscast as a leadoff hitter, Dylan Moore, but he did hit leadoff yesterday. If he is somehow able to establish himself as a leadoff hitter for the Mariners, that is excellent for his fantasy outlook. He'd obviously be in front of Julio Rodriguez and Cal Raleigh and the rest of the crew there in Seattle. So continue to monitor that. I guess Moore will probably see more time in the outfield too. Jorge Polanco probably sees then more work as a DH. So they have options here to move guys around. Especially Moore, who can play infield and the outfield. We'll continue to monitor that because Moore is somebody that, because of his speed piece, is absolutely somebody that's of interest. And because his bat has gone well to date too, I'm sure he's probably been picked up in your league with the news for Robles, because people are looking at 10 days of batting versus 4 years of his data. Victor Scott, speaking of batting, Victor Scott is hitting leadoff, or hit leadoff yesterday, excuse me. Got a couple hits, I believe. He's off to a good start, folks. We talked about him all preseason here on the show. We talked about him over at fantasyguru.com. He's got 4 steals in 9 games, batting leadoff. Mason Wynn, who is terrible to start the year after a terrible spring. Mason Wynn's been on fire too. Let's pull up Mason Wynn here. And again, this is always going to happen because he's not Mason Wynn. He was hitting 0 for the first 5 games and have a base hit. Since then, he's got a 6-game hitting streak, and over the last 6 games, Mason Wynn is hitting .435 with a .480 on base percentage. Why is this important? Because Wynn was supposed to be the leadoff guy to start the season. That was the plan for the Cardinals. He was so bad in the spring training, they had no choice but to drop him in the order. If he continues to hit like this, they'll probably revisit that, though Scott is doing a good job. So, I mean, there is a scenario where it could be Scott Wynn at the top of the order. I mean, you never know. But Scott profiles as that speedy leadoff guy, that Juan Pierre dude that just, steals bases and, causing chaos on the base paths and all that. Off to a good start and has been elevated. We'll see what the team does with Wynn. Wynn still has hit 9th every game he has started this season, despite the fact, again, he's hitting .435 last week. Excuse me. Triston Casas and Wyatt Abreu sat on Tuesday against lefty Easton Lucas. Now, that makes sense for Abreu. Abreu didn't hit left-handed pitching at all last year. The expectation was fully that he would be platooned this season. The Triston Casas thing is interesting, though. We've seen this with Luis Garcia Jr. of the Nationals. Gotten a ton of questions. It's really interesting. Got a ton of questions about Luis Garcia, even though I didn't push Luis Garcia at all in the preseason. And even though his player profile said, So I don't know why everyone drafted him. It seems like a lot of people at fantasyguru.com drafted Luis Garcia of the Nationals, even though he wasn't somebody that I said, hey, you got to go out and draft. And I know my ADP had him lower or my ranking had him lower than his ADP was. But anyway, he's a player a lot of people have asked me about because he's losing playing time against left-handed pitching. Triston Casas losing playing time against left-handed pitching. And that, the team basically said they weren't going to platoon Casas. He's sat, I think, in 2 of the 3 matchups they've had against lefties, which is odd because number 1, they said they weren't going to do it. Number 2, he's part of their everyday lineup. And number 3, Casas, and this again, there's more to it than what just the back of your ball card says, right? But Triston Casas against lefties, 858 OPS. His OPS against left-handed pitching is better than his OPS against right-handed pitching. So why is he sitting? Again, I don't know. Seems odd. We'll continue to monitor this one because I think this will change with time, but it's disappointing to date. Back to the pitching side of things, some more injuries before we visit in a couple of minutes with Tyler Buecher to talk some football, some NFC and AFC East needs. Blake Snell's got that shoulder issue we talked about earlier this week. Resumed throwing already. So it seems like that shoulder issue, very minor with Blake Snell. They've run tests. Everything is fine structurally. He resumed throwing on Monday, so he's going to take a couple of days off. Basically, he's going to take a week off and then get back to it. Very likely that this best case scenario with Snell has him back on the hill for the Dodgers in April. So breathe a sigh of relief there. At least that's what we're hearing now. Blake Snell should be back out there for the Dodgers this month. That's the expectation. Reynaldo Lopez, who had the shoulder issue, underwent arthroscopic surgery. And kind of like the scenario with Victor Robles, we're kind of in a wait-and-see mode. The positive news is that Lopez could return this season. That has not been ruled out for the Braves. The negative is that he's really not going to be reevaluated until July. So until the All-Star break, they're really not going to look around and see what's going on here. A best-case scenario, therefore, is an August return. It's a best-case scenario for Reynaldo Lopez. Any kind of setbacks, hiccup, anything like that, then it's pushed back to September. Obviously, there's the potentially misses the entire season. So I guess the early reports are positive with Lopez. Like, it's not, his shoulder's not jacked up and his career is not in danger. But his 2025 season is absolutely in danger. It's just. It's a good question here, but EIEIO. He says, what's the at-bat difference of Garcia's in a strict platoon? It matters how many lefties they face, and who knows? There's no way to know how that's going to play out over the course of the season. Garcia, and again, I tend to think these things normalize themselves and work out over the course of the season. At the same time, Garcia had 530 plate appearances last year. If Garcia was to play 150 games, let's say that, he would be in line for 600 plate appearances. If he were to not face lefties or sporadically face left-handed pitching, maybe it'd be 520 plate appearances, 510 plate appearances. He had 530 last year. So again, this is why I've cautioned people not to panic with Garcia. Again, it wasn't a guy who was pushing on anybody, but there's still a path to him absolutely replicating his production of last season. Absolutely, even if he's not facing lefties. So again, I think this is one of those storylines that maybe it'll play itself out and that'll be the way it is at the end of the season. But for now, I think it's been overblown. Brandon A says, by the way, it's Friday. What's your dark horse team to make a run at the series? It's so funny. I don't really look at it this way because I'm so in the granular with the players and all that. I don't really pull back and say, oh, I got to look at this team. I don't think Phillies are a dark horse. Tigers? I don't think they're. Yeah. I'm just. How about let's go Royals? Royals. I'll just say Royals. What the hell? Go Royals. I'll say Royals. That's my answer, Brandon. Take it or leave it. Angela, the Giants. You never know. Giants have had an ability to win. What year is it? It's 2025. They're an even year team. That's not a real thing, but we'll see. Giants started off great here in San Francisco. Back to the hill. Liam Hendriks is close to starting his minor league rehab assignment. He's out with the elbow issue. He completed a bullpen session on Monday. No hit there, so that's really good news. Fully expecting are the Red Sox at this point to have Liam Hendriks back at some point in the month of April. Very reasonable to expect that. But again, Hendriks struggled in spring with velocity. He struggled with health. And he'll return to a team that, while they probably still would love to have him work the ninth inning, they have other options there. So Liam Hendriks, he's on your IL spot, cool. He's on the waiver wire. Not much reason to go and add him at this point in time. Lucas Giolito is going to make another minor league rehab start. In fact, he'll make one today, working his way back from his hamstring injury. He should be back by the end of April as well for the Guardians, which is big. Giolito, we haven't talked about. No one's really talked about Giolito. But, he was really good a couple years ago. He's a guy that soaked up innings and given strikeouts. He's somebody that could be that guy again this season. He'll be back in a couple of weeks, it seems like. Pablo Lopez was removed last night with hamstring tightness. I think it was 4 1/3 innings of shutout. He allowed 1 run, it was unearned. Grabbed his hamstring, walked off the field. They're going to do testing. As of now, we don't have an update on Pablo Lopez. Probably going to the injured list, probably. I bring that up because Zebby Matthews, who a lot of people were wanting to step into the rotation to take the place of Chris Paddock, might have to step into the rotation now in the case of Pablo Lopez. So something to think about there. Matthews, by the way, 9 strikeouts in 5 innings last night. So he's basically on the same plan in terms of days of the week with Pablo Lopez as well. So Zebby Matthews, if you're looking to get proactive, if you're looking to make a move right now, Zebby Matthews is a guy you might consider adding because it sounds very likely, again, not certain, but very likely he'll get called up. And Zebby Matthews is a talented guy who could make 25 starts for the Twins this season. Zach Eflin has been diagnosed, and this is the final news note here, with a right lat strain. He's headed to the injured list. Lats, 4 to 6 weeks are kind of where we're at. So Zach Eflin is out. He's out for April. He's probably going to miss a good chunk of May. Kyle Gibson's not ready to return yet for the Orioles, so he should be back soon. Brandon Jung? So maybe the Orioles make a move. Maybe they trade one of their bats. We'll see. But for now, bad news with Zach Eflin, who pitched pretty effectively, had a quality start yesterday. But he's going to miss, I would guesstimate, 4 to 6 weeks for the Orioles. All right, so there's the review of what's going on in terms of the world of baseball. Normally on Wednesdays, we talk to Armando Marsal, but remember, folks, the schedule's a little bit different this week. We're going to go with Armando Marsal visiting with us on Thursday. Russell Clay will visit with us on Friday, as he normally does, which leaves today as a special day for our man, Tyler Buecher. Tyler Buecher of fantasyguru.com. I'm trying to get this. What did I just click on, everyone? I'm all confusing myself here with all these banners and everything. Tyler's away on vacation with his bro, helping him out, he's doing the Lord's work, as they say. He's been manual labor guy, dealing with a little bit of health last time. Let's see if he's feeling better today as he joins us here on the show. Tyler Buecher, how you doing?
Doing great, Ray. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. Feeling better? I know last week you were struggling a little bit. You doing okay this week?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was the pollen that I was experiencing in North Carolina, but the weather up here in Central PA is in the 30s. I'm loving it. It's not springtime quite yet, so get to avoid that. And I've felt much better over these last 6-7 days. Thank you for asking.
Oh, yeah, you bet. My dog, you can follow him on Instagram at Ollie Dog. Yesterday, he had to sit in the shade because it was a balmy 68 here. So he would love to live. My dog wants to live in Alaska. So he would love it if because again, for him, 70 is getting a little warm. He's a funny guy. He finds the shade as he's playing catch with his ball. Tyler Buecher of fantasyguru.com. We've been doing the last couple of visits with Tyler, and we'll do it one more time next week with him as well. Doing a preview of what team needs are heading into the NFL draft. You can go to fantasyguru.com, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner, get signed up for the off-season package. Help me out, Tyler. Franchise mode.
Correct.
You can sign up for that for the off-season football package. You can get the full season football package right now too. All the player profiles coming out of the youngsters, the guys you're talking and thinking about in drafts. So we have that whole series over at FG right now. But with Tyler, we've been talking about team needs. And today it's time to talk the East. So NFC, AFC East. Let's start out in the NFC East with the champs, the Eagles. They've got a lot of skill players on the offensive side of things. Certainly seems like they're locked down there. Teams could always use offensive line help, but their skill players on offense are good. Most of what I've been reading, Tyler, with the Eagles is focusing more on the defensive side of things. Is that how you see their needs heading into the draft this year?
Yeah, that feels accurate. They've lost several pieces on the defense that were contributors last year. Milton Williams was a key rotational player among that defensive line, got a big contract with the New England Patriots. Darius Slay no longer in the picture as well. They lost C.J. Gardner-Johnson. They did bring back Zach Bond, huge for a player who had been a pass rushing linebacker, has switched to an off-ball role last year, and by all accounts was a near all-pro level linebacker. So bringing him back was a very un-Howie Roseman-like move in terms of giving the linebacker a lot of money or spending capital. He just simply hasn't done that during his tenure as GM. Kind of enters the NFL draft with really just kind of retooling and adding depth to certain positions. Edge, they lost Josh Sweat as well to Arizona, so I think finding a replacement for there. Brandon Graham retired, so adding some pass rushers would make sense with their round one selection. I mentioned C.J. Gardner-Johnson departing. That sets up a duo of Reed Blankenship and Sidney Brown as the penciled-in starters right now. Blankenship started quite a bit last year, but Brown, I think there's room for an improvement there, so I wouldn't be shocked if they address that position. Tight end is also kind of a secondary need in my eyes. We've heard this offseason there's some rumors about Dallas Goedert potentially being traded.
Right.
And it feels like Roseman, he typically does these types of trades where he moves a starting caliber player for a future draft pick and subsequently gets rewarded with a future comp pick in return the year after. So it's not difficult at all to see these rumors with surrounding Goddard to come to fruition. That moving on from him, they would probably need to add another piece. They did add some guys in free agency, which I thought were notable, mainly because they were super athletic guys like Harrison Bryant, who started with the Browns, and then Kylan Granson, who started with the Colts. And then the interior of the defensive line. I mentioned Milton Williams leaving. He had 500 snaps last year. Only Jalen Carter had more for the Eagles. So getting a third guy there to go along with him would make a lot of sense.
Tyler, what about Washington? Obviously, they've done all this. That Deebo Samuel is the big news there, right, on the offensive side of things. And obviously, they're doing whatever they can to give their youngster Jaden Daniels all this help they can on the offense. Maybe they do another offensive line move there. But another team with the Commanders where it seems like the focus is more likely to be on the defensive side of things than the offensive side of things.
Yeah, I'd echo that for sure. I mentioned edge being a big need for the Eagles. I think that's also one for the Commanders, who have let some of their round one picks in recent years walk. They've got guys like Dorrance Armstrong, Dante Fowler. I think they're currently slated to start. I don't really view them as needle movers in terms of being a dominating presence off the edge. Finding a big body cornerback on the outside will also make a lot of sense. They traded for Marshawn Lattimore midseason last year. He played a few games, was kind of injured, and didn't really pan out to be a huge get yet. Doesn't mean it won't pan out next season. Safety, they let Jeremy Chin go, which was a shock to me. I love Jeremy Chin. He's one of my favorite defensive backs, mainly because he piles up a lot of tackles. But they added Will Harris from the Saints, 29-year-old, kind of journeyman. Does it move the needle? Not really, in my eyes. You mentioned the receivers there, Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel. Fun combination. Both these guys have expiring contracts after this year, so maybe they add a wideout. And then the running back position, they don't have a single back that is on this contract beyond the 2025 season. So adding some youth there would make a lot of sense. A lot of day 2 and day 3 picks at the RB position they're going to have their pick of the litter. Going to be a lot of great options there, day 2, day 3.
Tyler Buecher, fantasyguru.com. By the way, Tyler, how's the player profile series going over at FG? Again, people can get the franchise mode or the full season football package. Click that subscribe tab, top right corner. How's that going? You're cranking out a bunch of these youngsters. You've been focusing on wide receivers, I believe.
Correct. Yep. Trey Harris dropped on Monday. Not the biggest fan of his profile, despite the accolades and the high per game stats that he put up. I just kept seeing Jackson Dart shine while watching his film over these last 2 years, rather than Trey Harris being the elevator of plays. And when you look at like the on-off splits of when Harris was on the field versus off the field, Dart's production didn't drastically fall off. So I think Harris is probably a bigger name than NFL caliber. Let me just say, I think he had some great games in the collegiate level. I think there's some red flags on his ledger. There's also some positive. I mean, when we look at like the production profile, but he's going to be a guy that's probably more of a swing and miss or a swing and home run kind of play. Mm-hmm. Very, very volatile prospect. So I don't have him in my top 5 wide receivers at this time. We'll see how things shake out once the NFL draft hits. Again, rapidly approaching, just a few more weeks away. But yeah, that's the latest profile I put up on the site.
Dallas Cowboys. Ashton Jeanty was popular as their first-round draft pick about 2 months ago. Now we're getting all the reports that he may not even be available at that point in time. It fits the profile of what Jerry Jones wants to do. We also know they have a need at wide receiver. That also fits the profile of what Jerry Jones likes to do. They do definitely have needs on the defensive side as well. Talk us through the situation with the Cowboys. They need some pieces on both sides of the football.
1,000% agree. There's like no shortage of spots where they could address. Running back makes sense if Giante were to last to 12, but like you said, I think the Raiders are in the mix. We could see the Bears in the mix, and those are 2 teams with top 10 selections. Dallas doesn't pick until pick number 12. Could be a chance where he's not on the board and they're not able to grab him. But this was a team that finished last year bottom 6 in EPA per rush and bottom 6 in rushing yards per game. They added some journeymen, Miles Sanders, Javonte Williams. The contracts for both those guys indicate they're not really going all out at that position right now. So I'm curious to see what they do. Like I said, with the Commanders, there's just so many backs that are great day 2, day 3 picks where I think we're going to see the entire RB landscape shaken up by this year's NFL draft class. Should be very, very fun, and it makes it a very volatile time if you're in a dynasty league to start investing randomly in running backs right now. I would hold your pieces. Let me just recommend that. Going back to Dallas, that RB position is the top thing I listed. Wide receiver was the second thing. CeeDee Lamb has been this inside-outside slot guy over the last 3 years or so. But Brandon Cooks, his departure vacates 5.2 targets per game over the last 2 seasons. We could see Ted McMillan. I think a lot of people have him as one of the top wide receivers in this year's class. He could go at number 12. That wouldn't be a shock at all. Cornerback is also a big team need. They let Jordan Lewis walk this offseason. They need somebody else beside Trevon Diggs to be out there on the outside. And Diggs himself, he's missed 21 games over the last 2 years combined. This is a team that'll have the 6th highest passing completion percentage to opposing offenses. So cornerback would be a big position need.
Tyler Buecher, fantasyguru.com, normally joins us on Thursdays, but here with us this week on a Wednesday. All the football guys, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all join us about 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. Tyler, let's talk about the Giants. They've got the 3rd pick in the draft. Everyone kind of thinks they need a quarterback. They did sign Winston and Russell, but obviously not long-term answers. A lot of uncertainty with what the Giants are going to do with their top-level pick. They do need the quarterback of the future. They need a lot of help on the offensive line, on the defensive line. It's another team that's looking for infusion of talent, I think, is a good way to put it. How do you see things playing out with the Giants early on and throughout the draft?
Yeah, I'm very interested to see what happens with Shedeur Sanders, who's, by all accounts, the QB2 in this year's class by most pundits. Could go number 2 to Cleveland, could go number 3 here to New York. I know the Giants had a lot of people over at the Colorado Pro Day recently, so they really seem to be in the mix here. They're at least doing their homework for sure. And then the offensive line, this team ranked bottom 10 in both pass block win rate, run block win rate last year. Evan Neal, outside PFF's top 50 tackles. Same with Jermaine Eluemunor, who's 30 years old. I think this team's kind of moved on from Neal. They just need to add a blue chip talent guy there, aside from Andrew Thomas, who's just been a phenomenal left tackle. Linebacker, adding a do-it-all guy next to Bobby Okereke would also be a big help for this defense. Mika McFadden, in my eyes, is pretty one-dimensional, not a great pass coverage linebacker. And then corner, they let Adoree Jackson go to the Eagles. They gave a massive contract to Paulson Adebo from the Saints, but in my eyes, he's a better cornerback too. Got paid like a CB1 though. 2023 round 1 pick Deonte Banks. He has been struggling his first 2 years in the league. PFF's number 109 cornerback in year 1, and then number 108 in year 2. Consistently poor. They need some help out there for sure on the outside.
Tyler Buecher, fantasyguru.com. So that's the NFC East. Let's go to the AFC East for a few minutes here, Tyler. Buffalo's got Josh Allen, and because of that, they're always in games. Let's be honest. He's tremendous. They gave him the contract extension, all that. I think we'd all love to see them add another wide receiver. The Amari Cooper move didn't work out. They're still down there. They've got Shakir. They spent high draft capital last year as well, though, so I don't know what the appetite is to do that again this season. They clearly have needs on the defensive side of the football as well. Bills, what are you thinking? Oh, Tyler, I think we lost you. We either lost you or it's me.
No, I forgot to hit the unmute button. Sorry, I'm still a little sick, coughing and drinking
That's
water.
All right. That's all right. We haven't heard it yet. You've done a good job with the cough button.
Throwing it back. The Bills this offseason, they re-signed Christian Benford to a pretty good contract, but they let Russell Douglas walk. They let Kaiir Elam get traded away. This is a year after letting Trey White go, letting Ciaran Neal go, letting Dean Jackson go. Like, just the entire depth of this cornerback unit has been depleted. I think adding some talent up there for sure would be a great pick with their round 1 selection. I mean, this is a perennial postseason squad, so it's not until pick 30, but they should still be able to get a solid cornerback there. Defensive tackle is also a big need in my eyes. They gave up 4.6 yards per carry last season, opened the year with 2 defensive linemen facing suspensions, so they need some beefy lane cloggers, get some meat up there in the trenches. And you mentioned receiver. They let Amari Cooper walk after that 1-year whiff of a signing. Mac Hollins jettisoned to the Pats. A competent outside receiver that can separate Keon Coleman's stance is a big need for this Buffalo team. And the last one I had was edge. They added Joey Bosa via trade this offseason, but he's on an expiring 1-year contract. AJ Epinesa is also on an expiring contract. You can never have too many fresh pass rushers when you're trying to get a team that goes deep into the postseason.
Miami Dolphins. this is an interesting team because 12 months ago, I think the vibe was totally different than it is right now. Tua missed more time with injury. Tyreek Hill showed his age and had issues off the field, and porn star and cops, and doesn't want to be on the Dolphins. Like, we don't know where he's at. Jalen Waddle had injuries. He's had a hard time staying on the field. So now all of a sudden we've got all these concerns on the offensive side of things, which we thought, again, 12 months ago was in a good spot. Offensive line is an issue there. They're losing players to retirement. Defensive line, I think, is an issue too. Like, this is a team that went from a darling in the NFL 12 months ago to a team now that there's some cracks in this foundation, Tyler.
For sure. And they had some competent losses too in terms of losing Teron Armstead to retirement, like you just said. Lost safety Javon Holland. Interior, they lost Rob Jones. They let both Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson go. This team has a lot of needs, and you never really want to enter the NFL draft with filling needs, because often teams draft instead of getting best player available, they're drafting for need, and it's not always the best selection.
Right.
So I'm curious to see how they do here in this GM or this year for GM Chris Greer, how he does. Again, it's his 10th draft, so he's at least a seasoned general manager there. Pick number 13 for Miami. Offensive tackle. I mean, I can't look at the Armstead retirement and not yell for this team that wants to run the ball so much to invest in the offensive line in the trenches. I think getting a tackle there would be a really, really big need here. CB2, a guy across from Jalen Ramsey, also looks like a big need in my eyes. It's very high on the needs list. And then replacing Javon Holland, they have a starting duo right now of Ashton Davis and Afiatu Melifonwu, a very difficult name to pronounce. Both these guys being a pair of free agents out of this offseason. So entering there with two brand new safeties, not ideal in my eyes. And then receiver, I mean, what the hell is happening with Tyreek Hill? Like, he requested the offseason trade. He's due to make almost $28 million this year, almost $52 million the following year. I think receiver is also a big need for the squad, who did add Nick Westbrook-Akine. Hopefully he can get a touchdown every week for Miami.
Hey, for those people in Dynasty Leagues, he did it for 2 months last year, right? With Nick Westbrook-Akine, Tyler Buecher, FantasyGuru.com. New York, at least Aaron Rodgers is gone. They got Justin Fields, who, Justin Fields, I've always felt, has never quite been given the right opportunity. I think this maybe becomes that for him. So good with that move there. They got Breece Hall, even though we've heard rumors already that he may not be the full-time back, which is craziness.
Strange.
It's very strange. Garrett Wilson, obviously, they got their one. Their receiving core is not good. Okay, it's not. And you don't want this offense kind of has the feel of the Bears offense with Justin Fields. It's like, let's give this guy some weapons like Caleb Williams got when he got to Chicago. So I think they really need a wide receiver. Now, does that mean it's a day one guy? Is it later on? Like, where do they go there? They could obviously use some help on the offensive line to help out Justin Fields in his offense as well. They have some needs around on defense, maybe safety. What are you seeing with the Jets here? You think they're going to go wide receiver early? Is this the draft to do it in?
Yeah, I mean, they certainly could. I like them for a round 2 pick. Pick number 42 is their early round 2 selection. Pardon me. A guy like Jaden Higgins from Iowa State seems like a natural fit, a big-bodied wideout. He can complement what Garrett Wilson does, moving all over the formation. But yeah, just adding a rebounder, any kind of upgrade over Alan Lazard is a plus in my eyes. This team is really, really thin at receiver. That's one of my big needs. Josh Reynolds was another guy they added recently, but Lazard and Reynolds, both PFF's 90th or worst graded wide receivers last year. I mean, I don't need to tell you their PFF grades to tell you they're not needle movers here in terms of difference making capabilities and helping Justin Fields. QB, I think you can also make an argument for. Is Justin Fields the answer? They paid him a decent amount to try it, and he'll have a chance to prove it. But this is arguably a more dysfunctional organization to go to. And it's a first-time play caller. Who knows what happens with Fields and this lack of weapons? The offensive line could also use some help. They brought in Tyron Smith last year on and off the field. They also spent around on capital last year on Penn State's Fashanu. Left tackle, right tackle Morgan Moses. He departed for the Patriots. So the other side of the line needs help on the outside. Yeah, those are my big needs for them. You can also add cornerback too. The Jets let DJ Reed go to, I think it was Detroit, and they brought in Baltimore's Brandon Stevens, who was a turnstile that we typically targeted for fantasy because he is not a great cover corner. For him to be starting on the outside is not ideal for a team that has Sauce on the other side. Stevens is going to get peppered with 10+ targets a week.
Tyler Buecher, fantasyguru.com. The final team in the East is a team that, they've done a lot of things this offseason. I don't know how many people look at what they've done this offseason and get overly excited about it. It's the Patriots. They have some pieces on offense, but really they need more pieces on offense. They added Stephon Diggs. That was the big move there. We don't know when Diggs is going to return from the knee injury. Everyone on their roster seems to be a slot receiver, so that's an issue too for this team. They've got Ramondre Stevens on the contract, but they didn't like what they saw last year, coaching changes, all this kind of stuff. So they certainly have needs on the offensive side of things. They have needs on the defensive side of things too. This is a team that needs another one of these teams that needs an infusion of talent. And when you look at all the skill position needs, is that taking precedent over the offensive and defensive lines? Like, they need to shore up the trenches first, or do you think they're going to go more toward the skill position players?
Trenches make sense to me, but the problem is it feels a little early for Armand Membu, who's been the offensive tackle riser of the NFL draft process. Will Campbell from LSU has kind of been the faller, who was, I think, most people's offensive tackle one entering like January. But we've since learned that he has some of the lowest percentile arm lengths in the league, likely better served as a guy that kicks inside the guard. And that's not a knock. Like, there are a lot of elite college tackles that have kicked inside the guard and have phenomenal careers. Do you spend a top 5 pick on a guard? That's a question of value. I think for most teams, the answer is probably no. So maybe we see wide receiver Travis Hunter fall here. I think that could be an interesting spot at number 4 overall. Adds a difference maker for Drake May, Stephon Diggs, and wrong side of 30. You mentioned a lot of slot guys. Just adding any type of competent weapon on the outside would be a huge get for Drake May and his further development. So I think he makes a lot of sense at number 4. Again, this is a team that was really active in they tried to be active. Let me rephrase that. In free agency this year, they entered with the most cap space, $100+ million. They wanted to go after Ronnie Staley from the Patriots. They wanted to go after Chris Godwin of the Bucks. Both guys stayed with their own respective teams, but this team would look a lot different had they acquired both those guys this offseason as we were about to enter the NFL draft. So to me, the failure to acquire either of those guys makes those my top two pressing needs, offensive tackle and wide receiver for this Patriot squad. Then you look at the defensive side of the ball, they definitely have some needs there too. They got Harold Landry from the Titans. Good get in free agency. I like that. Keon White was one of my favorite edge rushers in the draft class last year. But they need someone else to go with that. Like, I think having 3 edge rushers is a good starting spot for teams that are able to get it, because you constantly need to have a good, fresh pass rush. You can also argue tight end. To me, it's more of a secondary need, but right. Austin Hooper, Hunter Henry, both these guys are 31 years old. That kind of surprised me when I double-checked their age. Getting a young guy makes a lot of sense here, because this is a really good tight end class too. And they can find some good guys here in day 2 or day 3.
Tyler, I think you said, and I just want to bring it back up, you said, Travis Hunter potentially this team for the wide receiver spot. I know there's a lot of people that think Hunter might play defensive back with packages on offense. Some people see it the other way. Are you saying that it depends where he ends up, or do you think that his career is more wide receiver than defensive back?
I have no idea. I think anyone telling you otherwise, it could vary team to team in terms of what they view for him and what they have him set up for. For most of these conversations over the last few months, I've been omitting him from my wide receiver rankings because of the uncertainty there. Right. I think when you look at it from a financial viewpoint, wide receivers make a boatload of more money than corners. I wouldn't fault him at all if he wanted to go the wide receiver route. And this guy is, when we talk about comps, Justin Jefferson's a guy that's frequently mentioned in Travis Hunter's name as a comparison. I'm really eager to see how that one plays out. And the Patriots could use help at corner and receiver. So I think it makes sense as an addition there. I just can't wait for the NFL draft, man. It's like just 2-3 weeks away. Mm-hmm. I really, really am looking forward to this year's draft and all the mayhem that comes from round 1. Yeah,
it's so. I was thinking about this morning because I will take the opposite position. I'm really tired of talking about the NFL right now. And again, I do baseball too, but I don't know. It probably always seems this way every year, but doesn't it feel like chaos is likely to ensue here? Like, we don't even know who's going to go with the number 2 pick. Like, it's not, it's not like there's these 5 guys in here. Well, we don't even know who the second pick is going to be here. Do you anticipate mayhem, chaos? Do you think there's going to be trades? Like, what's your prediction? I know it's out there, but what do you think?
I think last year or the year prior was like the record number of trades we'd ever seen before in round 1. I don't envision this one to be a trade-heavy draft because there's a lot of depth at like the key positions that you look for, like edge, tackle, corner. Not really the quarterback position, unfortunately, but I'm not envisioning a bunch of trades, but I am envisioning a lot of uncertainty. So shout out to anyone who's out there trying to make big boards and trying to accurately mock round 1. I think this is going to be a year with a lot of variance right now in terms of who gets things right and who gets things wrong. We'll be putting out a mock draft as a collective group here at Fantasy Guru in the near future. Excited to get that one up on the website as soon as possible.
And live streams every Tuesday at 7 o'clock Eastern time. For the actual draft, it's an extravaganza? We're going 4 hours, 5 hours, something like that on day 1?
Correct. We're going to kick off at 8 p.m. Eastern, and usually that runs to about midnight if you're over on the Eastern time zone. So usually 4 to 5 hours. Yeah, we'll be covering everything round 1. Armando Marçal, Russell Clay, and myself will be covering it, and we'll be having a rotating set of guests throughout the entire night. Can't wait for that.
A couple years ago, Justin Fields went to the Bears, and we saw Jeff Mann's ass on the live stream. Is there a pick that will occur this year that will cause you to disrobe?
I'll have to think about that one. No,
give the people what they want, Tyler. Come on.
I know. Putting me on the spot here, right? Let me come back to you. I'll try to get a better answer for next week.
Okay. And if you want, you can make it an off the wall one, so you don't have to disrobe.
That's fair. That's
apparently people love seeing dudes' butts on live streams at fantasyguru.com. I don't know. I wouldn't show mine, but that's me.
You got to spice it up somehow.
I guess so. Tyler Buecher of fantasyguru.com. You can find him on Twitter X at Tyler Buecher. That's Buecher. You can find him here normally on Thursdays, but today obviously is Wednesday this week, a special appearance. He'll be back next week. We'll continue our look around team needs. What are we at? Is it AFC South, NFC South? Is that what we got left?
Correct. Our final grouping. And big thanks to Armando Marçal for swapping spots with me here on this Wednesday.
I'll give him no credit.
But I will give him all the credit.
Yeah, he'll be with us tomorrow. I'm making a note here. Yeah, he'll be with us tomorrow on the show, stepping in. Yeah, thank you, Armando. I'm just kidding. Yeah, that's what we do at fantasyguru.com. We pick each other up. We pick you up. Don't forget to go to the site, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. Send a note to support@fantasyguru.com. If you get any questions about the football product, the baseball product, you want to combo something up, support@fantasyguru.com. How's the deck before we let you go, Tyler? How's it turning out? Or how did it turn out?
We are about 90% done. We are so we got a gap between the deck and the door to the outside. We got to fill that with like a 3-layered step thing that we're working on right now. Okay. But it's pretty much the end. The end is near, and we're feeling pretty good. Today was the last day of labor, so I got to get back out there. I hear them hammering and drilling right now.
All right. Well, remember, take that picture. We want to see what it looks like next week on the visit. But we appreciate you stepping up while you're away and joining us here. And we'll talk to you next Thursday. Thanks for your time today.
All right. Thanks, guys.
That's Tyler Buecher. I'm Ray Flowers. Remember, fantasyguru.com. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner of the page if you can. I'll be on with Jeff Manns today. It's Wednesday. I'll be on the Elite Sports Show at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time for 3 hours. And then I'll return tonight with Justin Fensterman on Game Time. Both of those shows on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio 3 to 6 and 8 to 10 Eastern Standard Time. For Tyler, I'm Ray Flowers. This has been Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com.